Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. Happy Sabbath to you.
Happy Sabbath. Happy Sabbath.
It is good to see the brethren one more time. I hope it has been a good week for you. All is well?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Listen, man, today is the best day of the year, man. The best day of the year.
Oh, did you catch Roger? Don't. I saw it. It popped up in my YouTube, not my YouTube, my Facebook stream. It is Dr. Henry's birthday, y'all. It is the birthday boy over there. He is
right.
17
right.
all over
Happy
again.
birthday.
My.
Yes, well, listen, I appreciate the birthday wishes to my members and just people from afar, man. Thank you so much. I got a lot of text messages and a lot of happy birthday and all that kind of good stuff. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. So you gonna tell us for real how old you are, or are we not? We're not doing that.
Hey, man, listen, I have no problem, Doc. I am 47 years old, man.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Yes, indeed. 47.
Yes.
So young.
So young. Yes, indeed. Roger, how you
Praise
been, man?
God.
How's the week?
The week has been real busy. We are where I am. We are prepping for camp meeting and getting ready for that. So that is getting ready to kick off in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be virtual. So all of my COVID knowledge is being put to test.
Oh, wow.
For our for camp meeting. So I'm excited about that.
Hey, cool. Hey, let me catch some of these comments right quick. We got Faye Davis saying happy Sabbath. Rebecca Boney saying happy Sabbath to everyone. John Mills, let's get this party started. Yvette, good afternoon from St. Louis. Karita Phillips, the PRT is in the house.
Yes.
We've got Lillian Thomas, good afternoon and blessed Sabbath presenters and viewers. Ann King is letting us know that she is watching today. Claval, I hope I'm pronouncing these names. Let me move these where I can get them there. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Claval Hunter. John Mills saying happy birthday, Doc. We've got another happy birthday from Coretta, another happy birthday from Faye, another happy birthday from Rebecca.
God bless you all.
Blessings from Atlanta, Georgia is in the house today. Valerie Singleton and Yvette, happy birthday. Lulu, oh my goodness, Lulu, you're going to have to help me pronounce. You guys want to try that one?
Catania.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We'll take it. Let's
Praise
do it.
God. Thank you.
All right.
A lot of love.
Roger, Valerie wants to make sure that you share the link for camp meeting so that they can share.
We are planning to get that out. It'll be out this week, so you'll have all the information and plus more.
All right. Sounds good. So listen, let's just do this right quick. Last week, how did it go, guys? We look like we are going. I'm looking at the sizes of our heads in these pictures. We're going from.
Yeah. Why don't y'all just match up with me, man? Let's just drop back a little bit. Come on. There you go.
I'm further away from my mic now.
There you go. Well, no, we can still hear you clear. There you go.
All right.
Look.
All right.
Yeah,
That's better. All right. Trying to be asymmetrical here, or whatever you call that. All right.
That's what happens when some people have high-tech cameras. I ain't gonna say who.
All right. Edna Duncan Hoxter from Florida. Happy Sabbath. Hey, listen, if you're in Florida, I want to see who all the Florida folk are. If you are from Florida and you're in the house today, I just want to know who you are. So go ahead and shout out your city or your church in the chat there so we can recognize you, Florida folk, or wherever you're from. We're excited to have each and every one of you today. Very quickly, before we jump in and just kind of debrief last week right quick, I want to just ask you, make sure that you share this stream today, our topic today and our guest today. You don't want to miss out on this conversation. You don't want anybody that you know to miss out on this conversation. So you want to go ahead and hit that share button if you're on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, copy that link, send it to somebody that you know. Put it in your email, put it in your text messages, put it in your WhatsApp, whatever it is. Make sure that somebody gets to come. And by the way, if you are on YouTube, and even if you're not, we want you to go to the YouTube channel and do what, Dr. Henry?
We want you to go to YouTube channel and subscribe.
That's right. And to
Subscribe
subscribe.
to our YouTube channel. That's right. And listen, we are going to get back to the point of giving away gifts again. Just give us a little time, but we're going to get back to the point of giving away some gifts. And so we want you to also join our group page. We just want you to be involved. We believe that the things that you're saying here on the chat has really made a tremendous impact on this program. And that's what it's all about. I mean, we just want everyone to get involved, everyone to be engaged so that we can see major change happen. So again, subscribe, and subscribe.
Hey, listen, our guest today, I know our guest, they likes giving away gifts. I might be putting him on the spot here. But he's got a lot of things going on that he'd like to get you involved with too. And we have actually a surprise guest. They might be giving away something too. So we might be able to give away a couple things today, Dr. Henry. So again, you want to share this stream, get somebody in. All right, let's debrief last week. Beneath us, you can see Christian Dosiah and Karnik Dukmetsian. What was going on, Raj? How'd that go?
Wow, we pulled together and we started a conversation on members' rights. As a member sitting in the pew, what rights do they have in the church? What rights they have when they go to meetings? What rights what they can do and what they can't do? What to expect? What a powerful, powerful discussion. One of the key takeaways I got from our conversation last week was that each level of our church has a manual in which explains the rights of that level, and I was very pleased to hear and very excited that the church manual needs to be written from a pastor's perspective and not just general. It has to be written from a pastor's perspective. We kind of alluded to the fact that pastors don't use the church manual because it doesn't seem to be relevant to some of the issues they are dealing with. But if we can do a rewrite that can help them, I think the manual will be used a lot more and a lot efficiently than what it is these days. So I was very pleased to hear that conversation. Okay. All right.
So what else anything, Dion, any takeaways from last week?
Listen, it was, back to back, we had lawyers on the show.
That's right.
We had Karnik, and then before that, we had John Washington. My takeaway, again, I think is similar to Roger. With the structure of the church, you definitely have to have some type of book to guide, what we do. And the church manual was brought up, a lot of questions about the church manual, and to just have a revised manual, just have a big revision of it, not just a couple of amendments. I think he said that they're going to have like 40 amendments that's going to be brought up at the next General Conference. But to really look at that again, look at the manual again, and just to revise it, and we also talked about that 11th baptismal vow. Is it the 11th baptismal vow?
Oh, that's right.
And all the principles and we kind of defined a little bit about those principles. I mean, we touched on it a little bit. We had a little conversation about that. So very, very interesting program, interesting show. And by God's grace, the more we are familiar with the structure of the church, with the manual, the policies, the better equipped we will be to make some significant changes where it's called for.
All right, so that's good. So if you missed last week, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You can catch it on the YouTube channel or the replay on Facebook. So go ahead and take a look at that. So, Dion, what is on the table for today?
Listen, we've been dealing with membership rights. We dealt a little bit with the constituency session at the very beginning when we started this series. Now we're going to talk about the future of the church. And, I say future, but I want to say the present, because the future is now. Yes. So we're going to talk about the future of the church, leadership in particular. We're going to deal with that. What does a leader look like in we say post-COVID-19 world, but we're still in this pandemic a little bit. So it's going to be really interesting to get the thoughts of someone that is in a position where they see leadership at a broader level.
All right. Roger, Who's at the table today, Doc?
Wow, isn't that interesting? Today we are so blessed to have with us the ministerial director for the Southern Union. Many know him because of his down to earth way of teaching and sharing and leading and providing. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk there in the Southern Union. And we're just so happy to have with us Pastor Roger Hernandez.
All right. And then we've got an extra special guest, surprise guest with us today.
Yes, sir.
And he is known to many far and wide. Well, I call him Captain Kirk. He's also known as the Bishop. He is one who leads out in a very, very new and kind of engaging. It started out, well, I'm going to let him tell us a little bit about it. But we're seeing church kind of already begin to take on a different feel. And we have with us Mr. Kirk Nugent. Kirk Nugent is he's a pioneer in Adventist digital media ministry. And so he's going to be sharing with us today, because so much of where the church goes from here is going to have to do with digital media. And we've talked about some of that before. We want to bring them on the screen today. Here they are. Hello, Kirk Nugent and Pastor Hernandez. What we normally do, we're gonna have a word of prayer. Then we're gonna give you just a quick second to just say a little bit more. Kirk has something very special that we want him to promote. I'm trying to figure out, Kirk, if we maybe get through the conversation. Our numbers are usually at its height towards the end, so you're gonna cast a wider net if we spend some time on that when we get near the end of that. But let's go ahead and have a word of prayer. Father, be with us as we engage this discussion on where we go from here today. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Amen.
So listen, Kirk, we didn't give your whole resume and all of that stuff. We didn't tell everybody. So we're going to let both of you just say a little bit about where you are, what you're doing, what you're involved in. And so, Kirk, since you are not the preacher in the group, although we call you Bishop, we're going to give you a little bit more time than Roger. Although, listen, Roger's not that kind of preacher. If anybody knows Roger Hernandez, Roger's quick and to the point. He'll get you there and get you out. So we'll give Roger Hernandez his full time today. But Kirk, we're going to give you 59.7 seconds, whatever you want to say to whoever wanted you to say it. Time is yours, sir.
And I'm so appreciative of the panel, Pastors Roundtable. Thank you for having me. Just want to say hello to everybody. I'm Kirk Nugent, the Geek Speaker Preacher. That's what I go by on YouTube. That's where a lot of people know me from. In the church spaces, I am known as, self-professed Jesus Geek. I've been in IT positions from Oakwood University to mission posts in Southern Africa and Ocean Division as IT director there, even working at the General Conference. But I am I teach small businesses, faith-based entities, and entrepreneurs how to simplify live video mechanics to shine a floodlight on their brand. That's it. That's me in a nutshell. So I'm excited to be here, excited to share a little bit with you guys about what is possible in this new landscape and how we can use some of those things for the cause of Christ.
All right. Awesome. Pastor Hernandez, time is yours. We'll give you your full 60 seconds, man.
Hello. My name is Roger Hernandez, and you said that there was some free stuff to give away, but you didn't have any. Well, I have good news for everybody. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'm giving away a free book called Grow. So you just got to go there, send me a little note in the comment section and say, hey, I want the free book, and I'll send you a free book. My present role is evangelism and ministerial director. So I'm the pastor's pastor for 1,000 pastors. And that's what I do every day.
All right.
Man.
So Roger, I just want to be clear. So when they go to your channel, where on their channel? Because I know we've got a lot of folk that may not know exactly. So they go to your comment section. Do they email you? How do they contact you when they get to your YouTube channel?
When they go to my YouTube channel and they subscribe, they can do it three ways. Number one, they can put something in the comment. Number two, they can go to the comment, leave a comment there, or
Yeah.
they can go to rogerhernandez.org and just send me an email through there. So either way works.
Okay. All right. Sounds great. Sounds great.
Beautiful.
All right. So Kirk, we want
Excellent.
to, if we can, I'm going to switch that up, and I know because Kirk can't stay for the whole time today. So but we do want to catch what Kirk is
Oh
doing.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
so Kirk, go ahead and tell us what's coming up and what you got going on.
Well, I mean, first of all, this platform, this space, this community that Roger Anselm and Dion have been creating for the community is for pastors to be able to get resources, to be plugged into what's happening in different places and spaces. I love that they've created this space. I love that the following is growing, and I'm happy to hear the conversations from different places where they're saying, "Yeah, I saw this on Pastors Roundtable. I heard this from Pastors Roundtable."
Oh, wow.
It is having its impact. It is having it is informing people. It is getting people to kind of think a little bit differently about ministry. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited that this space has been created. My space is called How It All Works. And it's a little bit different in that I am sharing with people how you can use live video to get your message out there. Now, some businesses and brands have a very unique and specific message that they want to get out there to people. Whether you are, I don't know, in philanthropy, or you're in planned giving, or you are in finance management, you're sharing with people how they can get free from debt, or you may be a counselor of sorts, and you've kind of mastered some ways in how people can overcome different things like, imposter syndrome and different things that are mental, right? There is a way for you to use live video to get that message out there. And so in the How It All Works space, my YouTube channel is youtube.com/Kirk R. Nugent, youtube.com/Kirk R. Nugent. That's the YouTube channel. And if you watch some of the videos there, you'll see that that's essentially what we do. We go over some of the different platforms that are available to you and some of the different techniques that you can use. But we are diving into some of the things that you can do as a person, as a icon, if you will, as the main point, to get your message out there using live video. That's what I love about the Pastors Roundtable. That's what I love to do. But here's the thing. What people are quickly realizing is that you can use these same techniques, these same principles and practices, these same tips and tricks for the purposes of spreading the gospel as well. But there are three things that you got to do. You got to do when you're entering the digital space. If you want to be relevant, you want to be successful, you want to start to begin building a community, you've got to do three things. Number one, you've got to be consistent. Show up at the same time. Make sure that people know where they can find you, where they can follow you, how they can support what you're doing. But you got to be consistent in order to do that. You can't say, I'm going to show up this week and then not show up another week.
Wow.
Got to be consistent. Then the second thing you got to do, and this is critical, you've got to answer a question. A lot of our messages, a lot of our ministries, a lot of our church services, a lot of the things that we stream online is great, but it is not answering a question. And I think we would really need to hone in on what questions we're answering. I think as believers in the living God, we have many answers for questions. We have them. We have them in spades. We have multiple answers for questions. We just have to package our content in a way that is specific for people who are watching to be able to answer a question. Here's the thing. Both Facebook and YouTube, of course, the modality is different on both. But people are searching for answers. If they're searching for an answer and your video comes up, your content comes up, you want to get right to the point. You don't want somebody to search for your content, find it, which would already be a big plus, and then have to scrub through a very beautiful 3-song praise set, right? Which was uplifting to your community, but this person is asking a question. You see how that imbalance happens there. You want to be able to get them the answer to their question immediately. And what that's going to mean is maybe you do something for your in-house members, right? To check that box. But when you're looking to go intentionally into the digital space to storm, the gates of hell, to bring one, if not two out to the marvelous light of Jesus Christ, you are going to need to be very intentional You're going to need to put in small form content, 7 minutes or less, and answer a question. You got to be consistent. You got to answer a question. And this is the third one. I'm going to shut up. The third one is you got to be vulnerable. This is where a lot of us have a major, major issue. And so here's the thing. You got to couch your answer to the question as one who needed or still needs the answer. Somebody lost me on that one. So if I struggle with a specific thing, when I find I don't even necessarily have to find the answer. If I find one little tip, one little trick, I can share that and tell folks, hey, this is what I'm learning on my journey towards victory, on my journey towards overcoming this thing. People will follow. They're not going to resonate with you being polished. Hey, I'm perfect. Come look at me. Come look at my church. We're perfect over here. Come be perfect like us. It's not real. And folks are just listen, in a post-Trump society, we're not feeling the lies. All right. We're just not there. So they're looking at what we're doing and they're saying so they're sharing with us answers to questions. Are these answers stuff that has affected their own life? So the word of God says we will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. The word of the testimony is what's missing. You can't testify if it didn't happen to you. And see, herein lies you finding the crux of what it is you want to put out in the digital space. You've got to find your struggle. Allow God to show you how you can daily, methodically overcome. Package it, folks. Write the vision and make it plain. And then share it with people in the digital spaces who are asking the same question as you. Your tribe is out there. The people who struggle with what you struggle with are out there. They're waiting for you to be bold enough, to be obedient enough to share what God is doing in your life. That's what I like to do with live video strategy. That's the reason why I'm passionate about this thing called live streaming. And let me say this last thing, Pastor Paul, you'll like this one. With live streaming, God has given us just a small window into his omnipresence. It's just a small window into his omnipresence with live streaming. We can be in multiple places at the same time with live streaming. All right, I'm done.
Hey, I'm curious, Pastor Hernandez. So you're hearing this from a non-clergy person, at least not officially clergy. How does that resonate with what you've heard? I know we call him the bishop, but how does what you've just heard? How does that resonate with what you see pastors doing or churches doing here at the beginning of 2021? On the tail end of a worldwide pandemic where churches have been forced into this space.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I like to affirm Kirk with a clear explanation. I like people that speak in points and get to the point. So thank you very much for that. I think the basis, and I've said this several times before, the basis of the divergent views that we have right now in church is some churches think this was only an interruption, and some churches are recognizing this is a disruption, and that determines your social media strategy, your live stream strategy, your missional strategy. You know what? One thing I don't understand, pastors, friends, and normal person, Kirk.
I knew Dion wasn't normal.
Dion lives in Florida, right? And so does Anselm. What I understand is his flood zones, right? We have these flood zones, and people build houses on flood zones, knowing that eventually your house is going to be flooded. And then they take pictures when the flood happens and the water's up to here, right? And they're using a canoe in their living room. And the water recedes and they build on the same location.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
I'm going to build right here in this place that I know is going to flood. So right now, what I see churches is we're going to build right here. We're going to, we had a pandemic. We had to shut down. We're going to do the same thing in this flood zone, just waiting for the next crisis.
Wow.
Wouldn't it be more smart there are mountains on Earth. There are places where it does not get flooded, right? So you can build in location.
Yes.
So I think the only other thing that I would say, one thing Kirk said about questions, sometimes we're answering questions people are not asking.
Well,
come on.
And we figured, I want to give them the answer to this, and then nobody's asking that, right?
No.
I would never sharing truth for the sake of truth is not helpful. I would never give a breastfeeding seminar in a retirement home, even though the content is 100% true, but it's not applicable. So I don't know what they're asking. I have to ask them. So what questions do you have? And this assumes that we have relationships with people who are far from God. And in 5 years, most members don't have relationships with people who are far from God, right?
You're saying in 5 years, you mean 5 years after they become a Seventh-day Adventist?
That's correct.
Wow.
Correct. So we have this spiritual incest thing going, where it's just about us. And like, what question do you have? Let me answer your question. And like, we talk about ourselves, for ourselves, and that's one of the fastest way to enter into delusion, where you think you're doing better than what you are, because in the pandemic, our tithes and offerings actually went up.
That's right.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Right. This year they're 10% stronger. And I remember asking the president of the North American division one time, when do you think we're going to have structural change? And he said, the day after bankruptcy.
Wow.
Oh my.
Hey,
wow.
That's big though. What is that saying? I mean, that's saying that as long as we're being funded, as long as there's money there, as long as we are rich and increased in goods and have need of nothing, as long as we think that this is, then we're going to stay lukewarm. I mean, I'm sorry. Then we're going to stay right where we were. Wow.
Yeah. My.
Wow.
Yeah, go ahead, Roger.
So we have to ask ourselves, all right, so I mean, Kirk is an expert in this, but it just drives me nuts to look at the replication of the worship service in the building now done online.
Yes.
Where all the announcements, they had me preach at a church that said, we start at 10:45, you'll be up by 11. It was 11:45 and I wasn't up yet. They played a Bible game. They had announcements. They voted people into positions. They had nominating committee. Nobody care about that.
They had potluck.
Nobody had time for that. Nobody had time for that stuff. Come on now. I wanted to do like a Monday Night Football. Come on, man.
Come on.
What are you doing? I interviewed Nona Jones, and she said 3 seconds. That's what you got. 3 seconds.
That's what she says.
They don't know who Nona Jones is. Tell us who Nona Jones is.
All this conversation and all this, hey, brethren, come ye hither, using verses of the Bible that nobody understands. You're just sending a message. No, we're different. We're separate. You don't get us. We're a club. And then when people don't come, then we say, why this?
Why?
The Holy Spirit is getting removed from the earth. That's the reason. No, it's because your live stream sucks. That's the reason.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Yeah, that's it. And it's good. Go ahead, Dr. Dion. Go ahead.
I want to direct it to you, Kirk, Rod. One of y'all could take it. What has this pandemic exposed in our church? Like, we're at the tail end, we say now, but what has this pandemic exposed in our church that we need to do something about before it's too late?
I think Pastor Hernandez is going to close it out. So I'll just say this very quickly. One thing for me it has absolutely exposed is the fact that, the church has been closed and the community has not missed us. By and large, the churches have closed and the community has not missed the fact that our churches have closed. Now that may not be the case for everybody. I know that. I know that for a fact. there are entities, there are churches that are very service oriented, and they have continued to do service projects throughout the course of the pandemic. I know I go to such a church, and we've tried, sometimes not always possible. We've tried to with all the necessary precautions to continue to do some of the service that we are known for. Literally citywide, we're known for being a service oriented body of believers. But what we have been saying to folks for far too long is, come in here and you can be blessed.
Yeah.
Right.
What live streaming has done, is it allowed us to show people what is happening in here, so they don't necessarily have to come. They can experience it where they are. And so that brings me to the second point, my last point, and that is what we are showing people. I think Pastor Hernandez just said this, is not relevant. It's for the club. And so you have this dissonance. It's like, we're just doing exactly what we would normally do when we were in church. Yes, that was also irrelevant. That was also just for you guys as your core body of believers. It's not for anybody else. It was not meeting the needs of the people you are hoping to reach. And then, if I could be just brutally honest, it's not meeting our needs either.
Well,
it's checking a box. It's allowing us to feel like, hey, we had church today. We sang the doxology, we repeated the fourth commandment, and we had church. But people will leave that service not having an answer to the questions that have plagued them all week long. Yeah. And that's the problem. That's the problem.
What about, how would you respond? Because I know that at the beginning of the pandemic, when we were talking about this virtual space, every preacher that I know just about was saying, wow, our attendance has doubled, it's quadrupled, it's, whatever. Even if they were doing what you guys just said, even if we were just replicating what they were doing in the building, they were looking at their view counts and they were saying, so you got a church of 135 and they're seeing 400 views. And they're like, whoa, we weren't getting 400 people in the building. So we're being successful in what we're doing. That's what they're saying, that this thing, that what Pastor Hernandez just said, what Kirk just said, they are way off base because our numbers have gone up, not down. How would you respond to that?
How's it going? How's that going right now, though?
Yeah.
Yeah. How's it going?
Okay. All right.
I think go ahead. Yeah, I think that facts are our friends, right? And statistics lie, and all liars use statistics, right? Views are not the measuring tool. Engagement is.
Engagement is.
Right.
Okay.
So if I measure views, there are videos on YouTube that some kid opening a toy that has 7 million views. So if we're gonna measure stuff by views, then we should assign a high value to dudes opening toys. Right. So what's the engagement? What is it? How are we engaging people? And of course, we've learned, most of us at least, we've learned that it's not about the views. It's about time engaged. It's about individual devices,
Okay.
But we try to milk the system. Like we say, hey, at first it was the views. And when that went down, it was like 19 devices. But a device can have from 1 to 10 people. So
we started saying that. That's right.
Has 10 people. You don't have that many Hispanic families, by the way. First of all, that's right there. That's not racist because I said it, right? You don't say it.
Right.
So we try to milk this system, and I think one thing that I would say before moving on from that question that Dion said, this exposed that when we put our minds together, we can do stuff. Like all of a sudden, you found money that you haven't found money for in the last 20 years. All of a sudden, you found money. Live stream. All of a sudden, it appeared. All of a sudden, it's here. Oh my goodness! we and it's, never waste a crisis. Crises are great opportunities.
Oh man. Yeah.
Right. So it exposed our idolatry towards structures, right? And not people. It exposed our building centric theology, right? It
Aye.
exposed some idols. Problem with idols is that they always demand the sacrifice of our kids. And this is this pandemic is not always sent by the devil. God can help us work through this and come out on the other side a different church, and for that we're thankful.
Kirk,
Let me
yeah.
talk on there to your question, Anselm. There's, for cities like the one I live in, very small city, a huge number of Adventist churches. There is a considerable amount of, to use a very basic term, sheep stealing. People moving from one church to the next, to the next, to the next, and they just kind of go around. It's the same person, it's the same number, but they just happen to be at a different place this week or at a different place in this season. When you translate that into online, what you will have happen is large numbers will converge on whatever it is they want to see, or whoever it is they want to hear. And so folks have experienced huge numbers, depending on who was speaking that Sabbath or who was singing that Sabbath or whatever they had on the program for that week. They will experience those huge numbers, and then they will experience a huge drop. The thing that Pastor Hernandez said that's so critical is engagement. What are you doing to capitalize? I'm not against having the big numbers, but what are you doing to capitalize on the fact that you have that big number? Is there a follow-up plan? Or did they just watch for the 3 to 10 seconds that Facebook uses to count a view, and then they left? And if that's the case, what did you give them in those 10 seconds? What did you give them in, let's best case scenario, 5 minutes? What did they get in those 5 minutes? In those 5 minutes, were you doing announcements? In those 5 minutes, were you saying all those in favor, say aye, all those opposed? In those 5 minutes, were you talking about some major meeting that was happening at some other 3-letter organization that nobody outside of your bubble understands? What happened in those 5 minutes? What did they leave with? Because what they left with is going to determine whether or not they decide to come back. And this is where a lot of us are going to struggle, because we don't know how to translate somebody coming to watch what it is you're putting out online into an actual relationship.
Wow.
Can I say just one more thing? It's interesting to me. Kurt just said something that I hear say all the time. If you really think about it, it's madness how we say it, because we're like, for example, let's just pick a very common place, Oakwood, right? Huntsville, Alabama. Huntsville, Alabama has 250,000 people. There's 10,000 Adventists.
He didn't know.
That's 5%. It's packed with Adventists.
It is.
There's only an Iraq. Like if you were listening to yourself for a moment, that you would say we're everywhere. We're 5% of the population in Huntsville. 5%.
Wow.
In other words, there's 240,000 people who still have not heard the Adventist message. So when you say, well, this is saturated, the field is saturated. Is it though? Is it?
That's a good question. It's a good question.
Or are we just going from the live stream to live stream and getting from a little bit? I like the worship service here and the sermon here and the children's here, and I can just sit at home. And it's the max of consumer Christianity, where I'm there to be fed and I'm not there to feed anybody. And I'm just there to consume a product versus provide a service.
My word.
Wow. That's huge. Dr. Henry, if I may, I know you didn't ask me this question, but I would like, may I chime in on it as well?
I think Roger wants to come back too.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
I think we got to get Roger back. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
So So one of the other things I think that the pandemic exposed was, and I know we've hit it already, but I just wanted to push a little further, is the idolatry that we had for numbers. So we
Oh,
were
wow.
looking at numbers when we were in our buildings. So when we had a special day, it was a success if a whole lot of people were there. And generally, they were just other Adventists from other Adventist churches. So when you have a Ushers Day, then you invite all the ushers from all the Adventist churches in the area. And then you spend a whole lot of money feeding somebody else's church's ushers and their families when you're doing this. And so, but it was a success. And so we did the same thing. Now, when we move over here into the virtual space, we've looked at that and we look at those numbers and we've patted ourselves on the back. And I did it too. We looked at that thing and we were like, wow, look at these numbers. And it was as far as the views that were coming, until I did some of that stuff that Kirk was talking about. I went and started looking at those analytics, and I figured out that those views on Facebook, Facebook doesn't count it a view if they've been on for 3 seconds. For 3 seconds, then it's a view. On Facebook, it's 30. On YouTube, it's 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, it's counted as a view. We're putting out there, and Roger, somebody talked about it. I think it was Kirk. You talked about it in your opening, where you were talking about short form content. And mainly our church worship services, we're doing long form content. We're putting out 90 to 120 minutes worth of content. And for us, we're looking at that. I go and look, we may have had 700 views. I've seen some of the stuff that we've done here on Roundtable where we have had 7,000 views. And then I go and look at the average watch time, 1 minute and 8 seconds. And we're like, wait a minute, hold up. 7,000 views and the average watch time, and it's 90 minutes worth of content. And that's what's happening with our church service. So when you got a hour and a half worth of church or 2 hours worth of church, and you see at the end that you saw, there was 7,000, 10,000 people who watch your church service, but how long were they for? And the reality is this, is that the mission that we have has not attendance in the building. It's not views on a live stream. It's discipleship, which takes us right back to where you were, Kirk. The mission was discipleship.
That's it.
And so what are we doing in this virtual space that is introducing people to a Jesus that they want to follow on Sunday, on Monday when the live stream is done?
That's it.
That's kind of a, what we and so when we worship at that idol of numbers, we miss out on the real mission, which was discipleship in the end. Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna turn it back over to our guest.
One thing I want to bring out is the fact that even the world don't know what the post-pandemic is going to look like.
Yeah.
And I think it's arrogant of us to believe we know what it's going to look like, or we're going to go back to what it used to be because we want it to be that way. And I am scared for the church. And that's why I love to hang out with the bishop and hear his concept, and Pastor Roger, you're sharing today some very unique imagery that really makes it real that even in a post-pandemic world, church is going to be significantly different. Significantly different, and we have got to get used to that. And I don't know what can we do to help not just our members, but even our pastors to get to that mindset, because a lot of pastors are just willing. I gotta open.
Yeah,
they haven't really planned. What are you opening to or for?
That's a good question.
Reality of the post-pandemic world.
I would summarize. I heard this in a podcast. Remember who was the one that said it, but future church needs to be 100% in person and 100% online. Online used to be like we doing everything in the building. We don't acknowledge anybody unless it's in the beginning. We don't acknowledge anybody online. We just. It's like if you're using one of those traffic cameras where you can just look at what the traffic, but nobody's interacting with you, right? Nobody's interacting with you. But it has to be 100% like people that their job is interacting with people online. This week we finished a evangelistic series in Rogersville, Tennessee. It's a small town, church of 50 people. We baptized 15 people. Most of those people are going to be in this church a year from now. Why? Because they've already built relationships with them over this
That's it.
last 9 months. And we've had people commit to Christ online, and there's a discipleship process for them. There's somebody when the live stream is on, there's somebody chatting with them, there's somebody encouraging them. When somebody makes a decision, asks a question, they're right there. They're connecting with people. It's not just like watch this, but it's really for the people in the building. But this is for both at the same time.
Let me throw this out here. There's when you're doing live content. So first of all, when you're doing produced content, you're producing some short form video that people can take and answer their question and move on with their day. They can take it, they can apply it to their situation, fix a problem, and move on with their day. They can take it, they can share it with a friend, they can apply it, they can move on with their day. That's produced content. When you talk about live content, and this is the beauty of some of these platforms like Ecamm, StreamYard, Restream, others, BeLive, Melon App, doesn't matter. OBS, doesn't matter. The beauty of these platforms is it's taking multiple people's jobs and condensing it into what could be one person. But let me say something here. This is where what Pastor Hernandez said is so critical when he's talking about, look, when there's somebody in the chat chatting with the guests. There is people, if we could, the consumer Christianity is what's killing us in this current space. Even for those who are putting out content that is phenomenal, right? That is completely and totally 5,000% geared towards the end viewer, right? Not with our traditions and country club standards in mind. I'm talking about content that is answering the question, that it's consistent and it's vulnerable. Even in those scenarios where people are doing those things, we still have very much the rest of the folk who are like, oh, this is nice. And they sit and they watch. Guaranteed, somebody is looking right now and they're looking at the screen. They're saying, I wonder why he has that background. It's a little bit odd. That is consumer mentality. You are here to critique. You're not actually here to be part of the ministry. This is the problem where we find ourselves. We've got to find ways, and I don't have an answer to this. I just know that this is a critical issue that most churches are facing right now because we've been in the pandemic for a year. And by and large, the people who have been keeping it going are your media team and your speakers, maybe your vocalists and your band. But everyone else has been sitting back. Mercy. You know, they don't have to turn on their camera. They've just been watching. They don't have to do much. It is the cost for entry is very low. And so because we've developed this consumer mentality towards worship, you're not involved anymore. So here's the challenge I'll throw out there for everybody. Get off your couch and get to work. Go and ask folks, how can I be involved? I want to moderate the comments this Sabbath. I want to moderate comments this Sabbath. Give me the number, the number that we put on screen when we're asking people to call in. Give me that number. I want to man that number this Sabbath. What's the email address that we put on screen when we're asking people to make a decision? Send that to me. I want to follow up with those people this week. Get off the couch and get back to work. Wow. Because that consumer, listen, it's twofold. Yes, there's a reason why he said that those 15 people will continue to stay there because they've made connections. The reason why we're struggling with the engagement piece because they're not connected. We invite people almost as a drive-by. You throw the hey, how come you don't have a flyer? Give me the flyer so I can share the flyer. Well, how are you sharing the flyer? You just throw it at them. Hey, this is what we're doing. Come check it out. No, you go to the person and say, hey, you remember we talked about integrity? Remember, I told you that I struggle with integrity and I lied about this thing and you commiserated. You said you had the same struggle. My church is doing a whole series on integrity. I'm going to be enriched. I'm going because I know I have a struggle. And we talked about this before. Why don't you join me? Wow. That's an invitation somebody can accept. And then when they get there, you sit with them virtually. Open up, bring up 2 devices. Text them. I see you just joined the chat. So excited to have you here. Something is said, you text them again. Hey, did you hear that point? I'm writing this down. Let's chat afterward. Wow. It's not hard if we are intentional. If we're willing to be vulnerable, if we're willing to get ourselves into an uncomfortable place, if we're willing to stop being consumers, critiquing, oh, that man's mic is too loud. Oh my goodness. That camera, I can't really see him. What his internet seems like it's bad. For me, it's wavy. We've become consumers. And I know that folks are looking at me like, but Kirk, this is what you teach. Yes, I teach it because I want to get all the distractions out of the way so your message can be heard. That's why I teach it. But if you don't have a message to begin with, it doesn't matter.
Mercy.
And if you don't have people who are on the team, if you think this is a one-man team, you've lost the battle already. Every live streamer will tell you they've got at least 5 other people working about it. Your assistant producer, somebody's doing something in the comments. You got mods who are putting up links. You got people who are managing the phone calls, the email addresses, the chat lines. You got people who are doing the follow-up. You got people who are cutting the content into shorter form content and sharing it back out.
Yeah, Kirk,
and they've got an army of other people who are resharing and resharing again. And they're sharing it with their own personal testimony. Here's a clip from church service where my pastor talked about this topic. Here's how it hit me. Take a listen.
But here's the
60 seconds or less.
Here's another thing, though, Kirk. Or you don't. Or you don't have that army of people who are doing all of those things, and you need it. That's why. That's the reason to engage is because some of us don't have that army of people who are doing all of those things, and those are things that need to be done.
Listen, let me drop this in here. Wow, a lot of nuggets, principles you're sharing with us. So let me ask this question then. So we're talking about where do we go from here? We do have churches that are coming back and trying to, do the in-person worship. We have all these sessions that are happening around us. Next year's a lot. What type of leader is needed in this time now? What type of leader do we need? Because, we're talking about engagement. We're talking about making sure that we have a powerful presence in the virtual space. What type of leader does the church need? What type of leader does the conference need? Or do we need some of these other entities that we have in the church?
Well, to steal a phrase, I don't remember if it was a Pastor Curtis. I don't know who it was, but he said, I'm going to steal the phrase and adapt it. I think the leaders that we need are leaders that operate based on imagination and not memory. That we say, all right, where are we going to go now? Like, what's the new world look like?
Say it again.
Wait, Raj.
Yeah, you got to back that up. Say it one more time.
No, we talking to the ministerial leader for the Southern Union, who ministers to 1,000 pastors. He sits on 1,000 boards, and you just got to go through that again. Imagination. We got to have leaders on imagination instead of memorization. Let's go break that down for us, man. That was powerful.
Imagination and not memory is like what can it look for? Well, what can it look like? Not what did it look like, right? So I have to ask myself. These are questions that we already know the answer to, right? Do we need duplication at every level? The answer is no. Do we need so many levels? The answer is no. Like, we know this already. But we're not answering any new questions. This is not breaking ground here, right? The question is, do we have the will to do? Because if the people of Israel have shown us something during the Exodus journey, is that people prefer the dysfunction they know rather than the healing they don't, just because it's familiar. Because it's familiar.
Wow.
I just, why do people stay in toxic relationships? Because it's familiar, right? Familiar. And they show you who they are the first time, and you should have done something about it, but you don't, right? So where is the political will?
That's good.
The bravery to say, I have never been as proud and enthusiastic about being Adventist as I am right now.
Wow.
Because with all the white supremacy movement in the evangelical world, we should be extremely well positioned to be the outsiders.
Yes.
And in this day and age, the outsiders win.
Yeah.
The nonconformist, right?
Yeah.
We're like suspect of the government. we're not really in
We are somewhat conspiracy theorists.
we're the most diverse. We're the most diverse in North America, so we should be well positioned. I'm really excited because we're not conflated with the evangelical world, right?
Mhm.
That idolizes and believe that God has sent us to save America, versus to preach the gospel, right? But as we move forward, the question is, are we going to do? And it starts at the like, what am I doing as a family? What am I doing as a local church? What am I doing at a local conference? What am I doing as a union? What am I doing as a division? And
Mhm.
it's hard. This is going to sound hard. I mean, I work at the union. I understand. I do evangelism 10 to 12 meetings a year. But if my department disappeared, I would gladly go to a local church. I believe I'm here because God called me to be here. I wasn't looking for it. I didn't politic anywhere to get where I am. Because if you whatever you know whatever you
That's it.
manufacture, you have to sustain.
You have to sustain.
But if God
Yeah.
raises you, yeah. So I have to ask. I believe the last thing I say about this is this: it's hard
Oh no, it's
to
not.
ask people
'Cause
to
I'm telling you.
change. Okay, it's hard to ask people to change, and this happens. I'm not talking about denomination. I'm talking about from a family to a church to a ministry to the division union. Where it's hard to ask people to change, um, and do something different, where their salary depends on keeping it the same,
Yeah.
right?
That's
So
good.
you have
This is-
it
this
is
is-
until
It's reality.
we say,
Yeah.
all right,
Good.
how are we going to invest money in our local church that is reflective of the missional aspect, right? We have 100% of a budget, maybe 10% is evangelism. So you spend 90% on you. This is this. How is this missional local church budget? So stop criticizing the conference. Talk to me about what you're doing in your church, right?
Yeah.
Roger,
And the
we
conference does the same thing. Then the union does the same thing, and then we'll see incremental change. I am excited and I'm hopeful, but I'm also an optimist, right? And I
Roger,
believe that we're moving in that direction.
Elder, we used to spend at the local level, we would spend up to 75% of the local budget on the building, the mortgage, the insurance, the janitor, the supplies, the yard care, the grooming, all of that stuff. That's what we would spend. 75% of local in a building that we haven't been in for 14 months now. So so did ministry stop? Was it supposed to stop? Where's all that 75% of that in the local budget now? And what could it be doing, or could it have been doing? And I'm not trying to say get rid of your buildings. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that.
Can I pose
it's a deployment center, though. It's a deployment center. It's where you go, and it's a hub for service in the community. It's a multi-use for not just the preaching of the gospel, but the healing of the nations, right? So we have real estate is important, but it's not to be worshipped. We don't worship. There's some churches. Since I've just said a lot, I just say one more thing because just make sure to delete this thing afterwards. In some churches,
TBD.
people worship.
Yes.
They
Yes.
worship. Because you're
Yeah.
trying to change one thing, and it's like, what? Wait, what? Yeah. It's like they start speaking. It's like super mad. I don't worship. I worship God, right?
Yes,
I worship
sir.
God. And when I have to ask myself two fundamental questions every day: is what I do and how we do it, is what we do and how we do it the best way to reach lost people. That filters every single question, every single ministry, every single funding issue. Is what we're doing and how we're doing it the best way to reach lost people. If it's not, modify it, improve it, or delete it.
Yeah. Listen, I just
Wow.
want to pause right quick and welcome some of our YouTube audience back. I'm sorry, Facebook audience back. We lost our YouTube, our Facebook audience a
Facebook.
few minutes ago, but it looks like we've got some of them are coming back now. We just want to welcome you back. We are here with Kirk Nugent and Pastor Roger Hernandez. We are talking about where do we go from here in terms of ministry and mission in the Seventh-day Adventist Church on the heels of this pandemic going forward. We've had lots of wonderful nuggets and gems. If you missed a lot of this, if you were part of the Facebook audience, we want you to go ahead and check out what you missed over on the YouTube channel, so you can catch the entirety of what you missed over there. Kirk, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to pose a slightly different perspective. I think, the question has been asked, what are we going to need out of leadership? And I think Pastor Hernandez has given you a masterful answer to that. I want to pose a totally different perspective in that I want people to walk away with, do not place it at the feet of leadership. I think one of the things that Pastor Hernandez said there that is so good, but I want you to take it one level down, because he said, ask yourself as a church, as a local body, what you're doing with your budget. And that's gold, but take it a step further. What are you, just you, doing with what God has given you? You see, because at the end of the day, nobody gave me permission to start the cafe or to create a YouTube channel to answer people's questions. And largely, nothing was done. And so I've come across people. Do you know that there are people that actually message me asking, hey, who did you talk to about starting up the cafe?
Wow.
Who did you get permission from? Do you know there are people that actually ask me that question? What I'm trying to share with folks is that you don't need permission. You don't need permission. And here's the thing. I'm also coming across people all the time who have a vision, something God has placed in their heart that they feel passionate about doing, but they're waiting for the structure to get with them. Why? Why? God is asking you to do what he's asking you to do. Wow. That's not something he's asking your entire church body to do. Look, here's the truth. Whatever your struggle is, and you know what it is, you can think of it right now in your mind. You can see it. You know exactly what it is. You can close your eyes and go right to that struggle and say, Lord, help me, because I know what that struggle is. In your struggle, you may find one or two other people at your specific body of faith that share the same struggle. But your entire church isn't going to be called to deal with that particular struggle. And as you find ways to gain the victory over that thing, or even just take a step in the right direction, you have information, you have content to share with people that they need, who are walking your same road. This is not, I think a lot of us get really confused by what our particular body of believers is called to do. Local church, I'm talking, and what you as an individual that God is calling you to do.
That's good.
Yeah.
You see, I mean, when you look at the disciples, they didn't always go together. They went separately to different places to preach a different thing. They had different skill sets. It wasn't always the collective and the group. And you want to get into an attitude or the mindset and habit of, well, I tried and they voted it down. So what can I do? That's not an excuse. I really believe that we as people and believers, if we continue to take that attitude, we will miss several things. Because I firmly believe that it is in sharing your struggle, sharing your journey, that God can give you victory. He'll give you the victory simply because he knows you're going to share it with somebody else. I mean, so at the end of the day, it is in your best interest, right? It is, if you intend to really do this Christian walk, you've got to do some introspection. I don't feel like what we're looking at post-pandemic is going to be something like a major shift or structural move within the cultural Adventist church. I said cultural for a reason.
Wow. Yeah.
What I do believe is going to happen is that people are going to wake up to realize God is calling me to do this thing and I've been disobedient. Forget everything else. I need to make a change where that's concerned, in whatever way that looks like.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think what Kirk just said is amazingly important. Stop saying when is the church gonna, and start saying when are you gonna? Because you're the
Right.
church. Like the church is some type of ethereal essence
Yeah.
somewhere. You are the church, bro. You. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? All right. You don't like it? Change it. Work towards change.
I've always said that you don't need permission to do ministry. You don't need too many of our folks are waiting for permission to minister. You don't need permission to do ministry. Just minister.
I gotta push back on that a little bit, because for too long and for too often, you have had to have permission to do ministry. There have been members who have started out and tried to do something, and they've been called before the end of the pastor's office or called before the board. Pastors have been called before the conference administration or the executive committee because they launched out and did not have permission. So while we tell people that in one breath, our culture, on the other hand, has always been trying to pull and control some of the strings. So the reality is, yes, you can do that, but we still have, and I know what I'm talking about, that we have that culture. And so somewhere along the way, whether it's, I don't know, is it written in any policy somewhere, or if it is just simply a cultural thing, either we've got to address that, and here's a style, a term that I think we talking about a plantation style leadership.
Mercy.
We have had and we have labored under for decades, and particularly certain sectors of this work.
Yes.
And it has trickled down. It's not always at the base level, but a lot of it has trickled down. And so we've got to find a way to break that cycle or get rid of that culture if that's going to become a reality for so many of our folk, because so many people just don't have the courage, Roger, to say, I'm going to step out here no matter what pushback I get from leadership, because they make me feel like I am not cooperating with the brethren. They make me feel like I'm out of step. And so they don't have that courage. So somewhere along the way, yes, you don't have to have permission, but we got to find a way to break that cycle of leadership within the church.
But that's when you look at ministry and you define ministry from a particular perspective. What I'm saying here is basically ministry for me is what I can bring to the table and I can do. And many of our folks look for the type of ministry that I want to do. I still have to get permission from the church to do it. And you don't need to. I don't need permission to feed my neighbor.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that pastors and church leaders need to stop making people feel like they do have to get permission.
No, but what I'm saying, see, that's what I'm saying. As a church, as a structure, we have been making people feel like they need permission. But in my neighborhood, I'm talking to a friend right now who is setting up. He's talking to his block association, and he is planning to do a block party for his cul-de-sac.
Yes.
Does he need church permission to do that? No. And that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
We tend to think we need to come back to the church and say, hey, could you give me this, or could we do this? No, just do your ministry. Just do the ministry.
Do your ministry.
To do ministry. That's all I'm saying.
My word.
And let me jump in. Let me jump in here too. And I think that now the leadership of the church, the leadership of the church, they're in a position to be more amenable to different forms of ministry. And I think that now there is going to be, right now, I think there's a greater tendency for leadership to resource and help these other ministries. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because it's the virtual space. Look, leaders know that, hey, the reason why tithe went up during the pandemic is because people gave. They weren't at the church. They weren't at the building. People gave. They gave because maybe they gave because of obligation. Maybe they gave because they felt the mission. But now when churches are opening up, they recognize that there's power even when they don't see people in the pew. So I think now people are going to be more, they're going to lean towards resourcing and helping ministry. One of the things that I want to ask, though, is this, we talk about the individual responsibility to do ministry. What's the church going to do? No, let's move that to what are you going to do? But let's face it, we do have this organization, right? We do have this structure, okay? We have this Adventist structure. And so and we've been talking about constituency meetings before, and I know a lot of people don't really care about that too much, but we do have some members that are really engaged, right? So when you look at these leaders, and I like what Roger said, that we need leaders who function more on, I'm going to imagine stuff. I'm going to, launch out and try some things that I haven't tried before.
So good.
Instead of going back on the old. So are there any other characteristics that we look for in leadership as we go through this stage of the church's journey?
I think that you need leaders that are willing to pay the price to move the church forward, because criticism is the currency of success, right? It's impossible for you to be a leader that is worth any of your weight in salt if you are not criticized, right? I'll give you an example. I've heard of at least two churches that when the building was shut down, they started having worship outside, right? There multiple churches had worship outside, but this particular church had worship outside, and they had a praise team with a drum set, right? Now that they're going back in the building, they're like, hey, we've never had drums inside the church.
Oh,
like we have drums. So there's a big now brouhaha because it was okay to worship with the drums outside the church, but just don't bring it in the building, right? Meanwhile, literally in the street, there are people literally getting shot in the back. There all kinds of crises in the community. But we're talking about is drums okay in the parking lot, but not in the church, right? You see, do you see the disconnect? Right?
Yeah.
So you need leadership that is bold, and says, all right, our mission unites us, right? Our mission is to reach a world for Jesus. Our mission unites us. But what are the steps? What are the practical steps that we need to take that are going to bring some heat, but are going to make it easier for the following generations? All right. The reason when I took a church over, the reason we were able to make some changes is because the pastor before me paid the price. He did not see the change, but he facilitated it. So he was bold and getting the church to a place where I could take it further. So I just I'm praying for leaders who will step up and say, I'm gonna get I'm gonna get a lot of hate mail, but I'm gonna make changes that need to be made. So we would not lose a generation. Every church is a generation away from extinction. Every single one. And if you operate on that, you say, okay, I wanna make sure. I asked the church today, how many people under 35 are on your church board? And they were like, well, it's like they start speaking in tongues, right? Oh, well, and if you're not intentional about it, it's not going to happen. So where are the leaders that are going to pay the price to lead, right? That are going to say, I'm not here to make sure everybody likes me, but the mission is pushed forward.
Hey, listen. Kirk has another appointment that he's got to bounce to. And listen, we just wanted to say thank you so much, Brother Nugent, for Bishop Nugent. How do you say the preacher something? What was that other phrase you said they call you in the space?
The geek speaker preacher.
Geek speaker preacher. All right, listen,
Powerful.
man. Just thank you so very much for your contribution to this conversation today. Anything you want to share just before you leave, PRT audience?
Man, one of the things that I hear it. I hear Pastor Hernandez saying it. I hear you guys saying it, and I think that in some ways, Pastors Roundtable fulfills this for so many people, and that is, professional development, or putting more tools in your toolbox to be able to do ministry on a level that you have not been able to do it before. And I love Pastors Roundtable for that. That's exactly why I do what I do with How It All Works. And I bring people on who can help you see things from a different perspective, fill in some of those puzzle pieces. One of the things that we are doing next weekend is we have a conference coming up, and it is called the Next Level Conference. We have a number of speakers that we are going to have with us for that conference. I see Bishop Donald Oliver is there, but yeah, a number of speakers that are going to be at this conference. This is the day one set of speakers. This is the day two set of speakers here. And we're going to be touching on several different topics, of course, all leading into live video strategy, but branding, graphic design, building community, the power of story, leadership, and marketing. These are all things that, even though these are terms that are used in the business world, these are terms that we in the church, in the body of Christ, need to familiarize ourselves as we seek to take to the digital streets with the gospel of Jesus for online delivery of the good news. And of course, the second day, we're going to be talking about live video strategy and some of the things you can do to actually get your live stream going. I'm not talking about for your church. I'm talking about for your passion project, for your ministry, for your side hustle, for your business. This is what we are looking to do. And so want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. If you get a chance to come check us out, the link, I will try to put it in the chat. It's howitallworks.com/register. Works is spelled with an E. I'll try to put that in the chat. Kanika's there, so maybe she might be able to put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, put it in the chat, or just as a separate post on the page so folk can see it stand alone there.
Definitely would do that. I just want to make sure people know that this is one of the things that we're doing to help folks, again, small businesses, entrepreneurs, faith-based entities, to be able to shine a floodlight on their brand. And for some of us, our brand is our walk with Jesus Christ. But for others, it may be for money. These are some of the things that we've got to do. We got to get into some of these spaces and to really make our voices heard, make our expertise known. And I think, that the Adventist churches, oh my word, we are just so blessed with people who work at a level that is just phenomenal. But we do so in our sound chamber. We do so within our own circles, and we never allow others to experience that greatness. This is what we're trying to do with this conference. And so if you have a second, if you want to check us out, it's the link is on the screen and it's in the chat, howitallworks.com/register. We'd love to have you come join us. It is next weekend. It is the 30th and 31st, 2 to 4 p.m. both days. That's Central Time. So excited to see if anybody would want to come through. And again, if you are wanting to come through and the price is prohibitive, just email us at info@howitallworks. We have several sponsors who have provided paid for several seats for others to be able to come and attend, cost for, no cost, at no cost. So definitely want to make sure that if you are interested in it, if this is something you want to do, right? This, to be clear, it is not going to be a spectator conference. You're not going to come and sit and be like, that was really good. You're going to have to come with a notepad and a pen. You're going to have to come ready to really ask yourself some tough questions. What is my brand personally? And then we're going to have to retool. So if that's what you're interested in, by all means, please go ahead and register. And if you cannot afford the entry fee, then please email us and we'll try and make that work for you. Thank you so much, Anselm, Dr. Dion, Pastor Wade. Thank you guys so much, Pastor Hernandez. The perspectives and the comments, the knowledge, the wisdom, the nuggets you have shared, absolutely phenomenal. Excited to share this stage with you just for a little bit of time. And again, thanks to the Pastors Roundtable community for allowing me a portion of time just to share a little bit of what's going on with us and to talk on some of these critical topics that have become to be known here at the Pastors Roundtable.
Amen. It's an honor. We've been honored and blessed by your presence. Thank you so much, Kirk. We will see you.
Thank you so much.
Next go round.
Yes,
All right. Okay. Dion, we got one. We got about 5 more minutes with Pastor Hernandez here. What do we got?
Well, listen, again, talking about where do we go from here, man. You all have been dropping some nuggets. I mean, some powerful principles on how we can get involved and what does leadership look like. And so as we come to the tail end, want to ask, what's the most, and I guess we're at that last question there. What's the most important thing, the most important takeaway that you would like for our viewers to get from this conversation? Give me just the two most important takeaways from this conversation that we've been having right now about where do we go from here.
I would say two things. Number one, stop waiting for permission, and number two, do something. Start before you're ready. Start before you're ready. Just do something. Stop looking at everybody, like who's going to tell you what are you going to do, when are things going to change. I see a lot of Twitter outrage, but how about
Hmm.
doing something? I can't change evangelism in the denomination, but I can change the evangelism that I do. Right? That's
Mhm.
my responsibility. This is what I'm doing right now. Right? So do something. Do something. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Just do something.
Amen.
Mm.
Amen.
Beautiful.
Don't wait
Dr.
for
Hernandez,
permission and do
Roger,
something.
but Roger Hernandez,
Got to do something, baby.
as you're leading pastors, you said you are the pastors. Um, I want to know, what are we doing? There's a concept, we were talking about this in our production meeting, that the pastors that that are coming today to lead us are not coming out of a factory or is being manufactured. They're being groomed and grown in the local church, which is an interesting concept, that it's the very same place they're going to lead that they come from. What are some of the things
Mhm.
that we have some local leaders or local churches members listening right now? What are some of the things that you, as the pastor's pastor, can share with them that they can help start to begin to groom the kind of leader we need for the future or even for the now? What are some of the things our
Yeah.
local churches can be doing now?
Yeah, nobody pays me to develop my leadership, but they punish me if I don't. Right? That's the reality of the of a leader. So I learned early on that everything rises or falls in leadership. This is what John Maxwell says. I learned I was underqualified to lead, so I understood that leadership development is my responsibility. I need to read. I need to know. Like I had a conversation with Anselm a while back where we he threw a bomb. He said every pastor should have the YouTube channel, and then he was crucified for it because like I don't. People were saying I don't like the way I sound. I mean, but you want like I don't like to listen to myself, but you want us to listen to you, right? But you
What
don't
in
want to
the
listen to
world?
yourself. what, what are you even saying? So I'm saying greatest investment in yourself. So if I'm a church leader, a member, right? Like, how can I invest in my pastor? What kind of courses? There's lots of courses. I want to continually invest in my development as a leader. I remember graciously people in my church would give me books, would give me resources, and were patient in my growing pains as a leader, right? Instead of expecting for me to be a perfected leader, they knew I was being perfected into leadership, and this patience that we need to have. So I would just encourage leaders to leadership is not developed in a day, but it's developed every day. So what did I do today? What did I read today? What did I learn today? What did I how did I grow today? If we're doing that, we don't see immediate incredible change, but over a period of time we see sustainable change. We we overestimate what we can do in a short period of time, and underestimate what we can do in a long period of time. Like we overestimate what we can do like in 3 months, and underestimate what we could do in 5 years or 3 years. I'm playing the long game. I always want to be sharp. Ministry does not look like it did 10 years ago, but I need to be up with what's happening, what the trends, how to read the currents, the culture. If not, I'm going to be extinct. I'm not going to be here.
Extinct.
Extinct is the word that I wanted to use. My Spanish gets in the way sometimes. But it's been a pleasure for me to be with you guys. Thank you for. And I've seen 10 people subscribe to my YouTube channel. So this is great. It's a great afternoon.
Hey, good stuff. That's 10 books. Let's put that up again. If you call that out, call that website or the channel name out again. We'll get that put up again in the chat for
Pastor Roger Hernandez. And I have content in English and Spanish. So you go on the playlist and you can see sermons in English. You can see leadership in English. You can see marriage stuff in English. There's church planting. There's a lot of stuff that's in English only. A lot of stuff that's in Spanish only. So you just got to work yourself through those playlists so you can find the content that you're looking for.
Boom. All right. There it is up on the screen. Go ahead and check that. We'll also make sure that gets a post in the group so that you can do that. Man, Elder Hernandez, thank you again. So I don't know if you like calling being elder. I know your beard is as gray and as white as mine is when I grow it in. we were classmates together at Andrews, and it is always good to see what the Lord is doing with your ministry. Right. Anything else, guys, before we close this one out for today? This is John Mills says, do I get a book for being a subscriber prior to today? Oh, there's a good question.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. Roger, go ahead. Take us out, Doc.
Wow.
All right.
I'm scared. Hey, listen, I'm scared to play music because we lost our Facebook audience.
Yeah.
Because Facebook said that we played some music we didn't have copyright to, and they were wrong. We have license for everything that we play, but they killed our YouTube, our Facebook. Oh, they killed it again. Our Facebook audience is gone again, and then we haven't even played any music.
There's no music.
No music. I'm gonna have to talk to Facebook.
That's an example. That's an example that people do what they want. You know what I mean? No music, we're still gonna kill you. Music, we're gonna kill you. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah. I'm realizing.
Oh man,
guys, we're out here. We're in the battle. We're in the battle here. So, but
yes, sir.
Thank you, Pastor Hernandez, for being with us. The conversation this week has been very rich. The conversation was very it prodded me to think about things in a different light, and so I'm excited about moving forward, taking this to the next level. And I believe that's what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks as we continue this series on church leadership, talking about where the church is. I've talked to a few of our future guests, and they are excited to come on and be with us here at the Pastors Roundtable, where we strive. We're striving, preacher.
We
striving. Today is a strive where we strive to make ministry relevant,
resourced,
and real. God bless.